Jimin cried at Jungkook's words, "I'm afraid that after this, we won't be this close anymore." That simple yet deeply meaningful sentence came out of Jimin's mouth, in front of Jungkook, who could only respond with eyes heavy with burden. That sentence wasn't just an emotional confession, it was an explosion of honesty that shook the hearts of ARMY around the world. In an instant, what was once seen as a military routine turned into an emotionally wrenching event. Is this merely a temporary farewell, or the beginning of a new chapter filled with uncertainty? This emotionally charged event occurred at the 5th Division training base, where Jimin and Jungkook of BTS are carrying out their mandatory military service. Just when fans felt at ease seeing both idols fulfill their national duties with high spirits and their trademark smiles, came the unexpected news. Jungkook filed for an early transfer, not due to conflict, not due to violation, but because of a personal decision he had silently kept from his closest friend, Jimin. The order came on a morning damp with leftover rain. In the barracks, usually filled with jokes and camaraderie, Jungkook stood stiffly with a piece of paper in his hand. Its content was clear: authorization of a transfer for the Military Arts and Rehabilitation Program, meaning he had to leave the base and leave Jimin earlier than scheduled. No warning, no lengthy conversation, just glances too difficult to explain, and a silence more painful than anything. Jimin, who is known to be strong and composed, could not hide his shock. When Jungkook finally opened up about his request, that he wanted to contribute something meaningful in his remaining service, Jimin was silent. But it wasn't a silence of understanding. It was a jarring silence. Silence born of feeling left behind. Silence because of a betrayal felt from the emotional distance that suddenly formed due to a one-sided decision. And then, the words were spoken. "We can do anything, as long as we're together, Jungkook." That sentence came from a friend who had always anchored his inner peace in the presence of someone who was always by his side. A sentence that ultimately made Jungkook unable to hold back tears in front of Jimin. The ARMY's reaction to this incident was overwhelming. Social media was flooded with hashtags like #JungkookJiminFarewell, #ProtectJimin, and #FriendshipNeverEnds. Thousands of comments flooded Twitter and Weverse, filled with emotional messages reflecting how deeply fans love and empathize with the relationship between these two BTS members. Many cried reading the story, especially after leaked videos showed Jimin sitting alone in the barracks, staring at the empty bench where he and Jungkook used to share stories. Many fans also expressed concern over the emotional toll on Jimin. He is known to be highly sensitive and empathetic, and Jungkook's presence has long served as an emotional anchor for him. The fact that he must complete his remaining military service without his closest friend by his side is clearly a heavy blow. Jungkook, on the other hand, is not free from emotional burden. In a personal statement delivered through military media, he admitted that the decision wasn't made lightly. "I just wanted to end this in a meaningful way. But I know I made someone feel left behind," he wrote. Those words became a major topic across ARMY communities, who are increasingly aware of the pressure both are under. This story is not just about a physical separation. It's about how two friends who rely on each other must face the reality that life choices, no matter how small, can shift dynamics that once felt eternal. Many say this is an emotional turning point in Jimin and Jungkook's relationship, a test that will determine if their bond can transcend time and distance. On the final night before Jungkook's departure, they sat together on an old bench behind the barracks. No music, no excessive words, just quiet conversation, occasionally interrupted by muffled sobs. Under the clear night sky, Jimin said, "I'm scared, everything will change." And Jungkook replied with a simple sentence that breaks any heart, "I'm scared too, but I believe we'll still be us." When the military vehicle arrived the next morning, there was no procession or farewell ceremony, just a line of soldiers standing in salute. Jungkook, with his backpack and swollen eyes, turned around briefly. Jimin was standing there, Not a single word was spoken. But when Jungkook saluted just for him, all defenses crumbled. Jimin cried, not out of anger, not out of sadness, but out of loss. This story, which to some may seem like just a glimpse into the military life of two K-pop stars, holds a far deeper message about friendship tested by time and circumstance, about the courage to make decisions and the courage to face their consequences, and about how important it is to have just one person who understands when the world feels too quiet to comprehend. Now, June is just a few weeks away. Their military service will soon be over. But the emotional wounds left by that moment remain fresh in ARMY's minds. Will they reunite and continue what they started? Or will that distance form a new boundary? One thing is certain, this is not the end. But it is a moment that will forever be remembered as one of the most human fragments in BTS's story. And for fans who've witnessed it all from the start, they know, true friendship never really ends. Were those tears real? Were the heartbreaking words from Jimin to Jungkook truly spoken? Or is this all a constructed narrative designed to shape public perception? The emotional farewell story between Jimin and Jungkook is moving. Many felt touched, even as if experiencing the emotional pain themselves. But amid the wave of emotions dominating the digital space, a fundamental question arises and must be considered together. Did this really happen? The information presented in this article comes from various sources. Video clips circulating on TikTok, unofficial audio recordings on YouTube, quotes from fan-based Twitter accounts, and speculations discussed in international forums. But we must admit, none of these sources can be fully validated. Thus arises the critical question, are we witnessing reality, or are we being led to believe in a story made to feel real? Skepticism is essential in situations like this, especially when discussing public figures as large as Jimin and Jungkook, global icons watched by millions. In this context, it's very possible that every gesture, expression, or even silence is overinterpreted, then constructed into dramatic narratives by social media. Are we sure they really sat on that old wooden bench that night, talking about their fears for the future? Or is it just an image formed from a contextless video? It should be noted that as of now, there has been no official statement from Big Hit Music, HYBE labels, or the South Korean military authorities regarding the emotional conversation between Jimin and Jungkook that's gone viral. If this information is truly significant and shocking, why has there been no formal clarification? This is where we, the public, must be wise. Not to belittle the feelings of ARMY moved by emotion, but to remind that social media is highly vulnerable to perception manipulation. Every video can be edited. Every quote can be twisted. Even every tear can be interpreted in many ways. So, if today we cry because of this narrative, we must also ask, are these tears for reality or for the collective imagination crafted by the digital world? One aspect to highlight is how this news spread. Platforms like TikTok and Twitter are indeed primary channels for information among today's generation, but they're also fertile grounds for misinformation and sensationalism. Short videos with dramatic text and sad music are not guarantees of truth. In fact, they are the easiest types of content to provoke emotional reactions without demanding verification. Ask yourself, why do stories like this go viral so fast? Is it because people truly care about their idol's psychological condition? Or because tales of tears and goodbyes always sell well? Even if the reality isn't as tragic, there is a significant trend in the global entertainment industry, and K-pop is no exception, to exploit emotional momentum to maintain public attention. It's possible that, without realizing, we are being made part of a media strategy. Is this story really coming from Jimin and Jungkook? Or is it a narrative crafted by those who know exactly how to turn public emotion into a commodity? Let's be clear, there is no concrete evidence that Jimin openly cried in the training field because of Jungkook's decision. There's no official recording confirming they truly sat together and uttered the now widely quoted words. Even the so-called personal letter from Jungkook has never been officially published. However, that does not mean the story is entirely false. In the digital age, the line between reality and perception becomes blurred. Fact and fiction can seep into each other, ultimately creating what's called emotional reality, a form of truth that is felt even if never verified. This is both the danger and power of today's public narratives. So, what should we do as viewers and fans? First, we need to train reflective thinking. Don't rely on emotion as the only judgment tool. Ask more questions. Verify every piece of information. Read from various angles. Compare sources. And most importantly, don't assume what touches your heart must be true. Second, we must become more aware that as part of a global community like ARMY, we have a responsibility not to spread unverified information, especially when that information can affect the reputation, psychology, or even privacy of those involved. Third, it's important to realize that K-pop idols, though living in the public eye,